according to a survey published by IUCN.
Each cruise boat operating in Hạ Long Bay on average produces 11.3 kilograms of solid waste per boat per night.
The most frequently used method to reduce solid waste production by cruise boats is use of waste segregation bins, with 91% of cruise boats having them installed. Selling or donating leftover food is also applied by 59% of total cruise boats surveys, followed by replacing individual with bulk dispensers, 39%, and replacing single with multiple-use bottles, 37%. The least popular method is recycling paper, cooking oil, etc., with only 19% of the cruise boats doing this in their daily operations.
What you have just seen is some of many solutions to the current environmental pollution at sea that we are tackling. Given Vietnam's natural beauty, the coastal tourism is an engine of economic growth. The Hạ Long Bay World Heritage Site and the Cát Bà Archipelago Biosphere Reserve are examples. The booming of tourism in such places is putting more challenges on the environmental protection efforts in Hạ Long and Cát Bà. To solve this issue, many campaigns and activities have been held in order to improve environmental management and protect the natural integrity of the Hạ Long Bay and the Cát Bà Archipelago. Today, our show will talk more about such efforts, and to help us, we have invited to our studio today a special guest who's been devoted to environmental work in Vietnam and Asia for more than 20 years. Hello, Mr. Jack.
Morning.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
So we learned that you came here riding your bicycle.
That's right. I bicycle everywhere in Hanoi. It's a small city. There's lots of traffic, but it moves pretty slowly, so it's safe and pleasant to bike around.
And you brought here your bottle with a coffee.
Like so many organizations, we're very concerned about rising levels of plastic pollution in Vietnam. And we've signed up to a code of conduct with many embassies and international organizations to eliminate the use of single-use plastics in and around the office. So I'm personally, and we're all professionally committed to not using single-use plastics. Mm-hmm. So I bring my own bottle.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about you and IUCN and what the organization has been doing in Vietnam in terms of environmental protection?
I've worked for IUCN based here in Hanoi for 10 years. IUCN is the International Union for Conservation of Nature, is an international organization headquartered in Switzerland, 71 years old. And we have had a country program office in Vietnam since 1993. And we focus on a whole range of environmental conservation issues, including protected areas, wildlife protection, and World Heritage Site management, since we are the advisor to the UN on the status of natural World Heritage Sites, including Hạ Long Bay.
What are the main causes of the environmental pollution now in Hạ Long and Cát Bà?
There are two basic problems. One is solid waste management. This is something that is recognized by the highest levels of government as a major challenge to Vietnam, and also water pollution, which is a particular issue in Hạ Long Bay, because you have about 500 boats crisscrossing all day, taking tourists. Some of those, probably only about 10%, have installed wastewater treatment systems.
Here are a piece of polystyrene. This is a very common material used in floating farm in Hạ Long Bay and Cát Bà Island. And to us, this material is very familiar, but we know very little about the negative impact it has on the environment if not treated properly. So can you share more about the information and the cost that it can cost to the environment of this material?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as you said, this is a piece of expanded polystyrene. These big blocks of expanded polystyrene are used in Ha Long and in Cat Ba as what we call flotation devices. They sit underneath floating villages. Mm-hmm. They're also used for cold storage to keep fish fresh and cold for customers, for restaurants. And what happens is that under wave action, mm-hmm. Bits start to break off.
Okay.
And then these smaller bits then get broken up into even smaller bits. And we have here, for example, some tiny bits of expanded polystyrene that end up floating in the water, and they accumulate on beaches. And then even these small pieces break up into even finer pieces. It makes the collection extremely difficult. You need a vacuum hoover.
Oh, okay.
To actually collect it. And there are ways to address this. You could buy a higher quality of expanded polystyrene that does not break down mm-hmm. during the wave action. You could wrap it up in some kind of nylon wrapping. Or alternatively, you could substitute it for blue floating barrels.
But all of the material substitution for polystyrene, I think, costs more, right, than the current one.
It does cost a little bit more.
Yeah.
And these are obviously, this is an issue. But our opinion is that given the number of tourists and given the economic importance of the site, it really makes good long-term economic sense for the government to reinvest in environmental protection in the site.
IUCN has implemented many different projects, but what do you think about the current situation of the project in Ha Long Bay and Cat Ba?
We have we've been working in Ha Long and Cat Ba since the mid-90s, when the site was inscribed as a natural World Heritage Site. And we've maintained a very close engagement since then with the management board and with the province and with the ministries in Hanoi. We have, in 2014, with support from the US Agency for International Development, we established what we call the Alliance, the Ha Long and Cat Ba Alliance, that brings together government, civil society, and businesses, the three forces, if you like, that are needed to effect real, lasting change in terms of environmental quality mm-hmm. and the satisfaction of the millions of tourists who visit the site. So we're now in the fifth year, and this is an initiative that will continue into the future because we see it's had a significant positive effect in terms of management.
To date, the Ha Long Cat Ba Alliance has partnered with nearly 20 cruise companies, local and international businesses. It has leveraged more than $210,000 from the private sector to invest in awareness raising and community development activities in Haiphong City and Guangdong Province. The Alliance has organized 3 large-scale coastal cleanups with over 300 volunteers that collected nearly 4 tons of trash along 4 kilometers of coastline. As more than 60% of the trash was expanded polystyrene, the Alliance worked with the Ha Long City People's Committee to issue a decision banning the use of this material in Ha Long Bay and worked with the Haiphong City People's Committee on alternatives. Moreover, IUCN have encouraged and engaged with businesses such as Bayer and Sipo Hotel in minimizing the use of plastic products.
And to have a better understanding about the participation of the business in Ha Long Bay in the environmental protection efforts, we have invited to our studio today Ms. Bùi Ngọc Linh from Bayer Cruise. Thank you very much for joining our program today. Can you share with us the incentives of companies like you in participating in the efforts like this to help clean up Ha Long and Cat Ba?
Thank you, Ling, for inviting Bayer Cruise to such a meaningful talk with IUCN today. Bayer Cruise is operating in Ha Long Bay for 12 years now. and it's our home. It's our home for all the crew members, for the people who work on our cruise, and it's also like our business field. So the incentive for joining IUCN to fight for better environment, for the cleaner ocean, is actually to show our love to our home, to protect the working field, to protect our homeland, not for today, because it's also for the future.
How IUCN and the business sector have been collaborating?
When we're talking to government about new policies, new standards, it's very important that those are realistic.
Yes.
And so we talked to Bahia and many other companies about what is achievable at what cost. And what we're noticing is that over the last few years, the cost, for example, of sort of small-scale onboard wastewater treatment systems has dropped sharply. Now it can be installed just for a few $1,000s. So there's an opportunity now to install these wastewater treatment systems on all the boats,
Okay.
not just the few.
When IUCN approach the stakeholder, it's not like, okay guys, let's do this and this and this. But we have a lot of discussion. We have a lot of meeting to set the criteria, what is important for the bay, what is important for the environment, and also biological of the bay, of the area. So we set our target and projects to work along. And for example, like the cleanup, we also doing daily, but also yearly event with other NGO, with Green Hub, with IUCN, with US Embassy, for example. But we also have daily work, fundraising for also cat bar size.
Can you share more about specific stories on the cleaning up activities?
We have so many fun memory. Some is nice, pleasant about meeting new people who passionate about the environment, but other is like really bad memory about the trash,
About
the
trash.
rubbish.
Yeah.
So as Mr. Jack also share and make some example about how the small styrofoam is go into the environment. Because of the pollution and the solid waste, it's not like sucking in some specific area. It's following the tide and the current to everywhere. And when the tide is high, it's sucking in all the limestone and also all the bush all behind the rock. So when the tide is going down, and for example, we do cleanup, we not just clean up the beach. We also have to go higher up to take out everything from the trees. For example, plastic bag hanging like jellyfish on the tree. Or we have all of our volunteers have to go under the rock, behind the rock. Sorry, not under, behind the rock, and then we use our hand or our tools to take out like a lot of small piece of styrofoam. It's so tiny that actually we wish we have the vacuum cleaner to go there and like suck everything in. But you know, the cleanup is very difficult, very hard working, and we really like appreciate all the volunteer spirit to go to pick up all of that tiny thing that cannot biodegrade.
At 9 a.m., these workers at the Cat Ba Bay Management Board have already collected a boat full of rubbish at the Bến Đèo Bay. The boat comes here daily and cleans up the zone from 7 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. The average amount of floating garbage collected is up to 250 to 300 kilograms per day.
Phao xốp này nó trôi nổi ra ngoài mặt nước ấy, nó không phân hủy được mà nó sẽ tan ra, nó vớt cái đấy cũng rất là khó. Tại vì vớt cái đấy phải có cái vật chuyên dụng như là vật cái nắp của cái mắt của nó rất là giặt, nên nó trôi nổi nó rất khó khăn cho cái việc vớt. Ngày lượng rác vớt ở trên vịnh này nó rơi vào tầm khoảng 1 khối.
Ở trong mỗi một năm thì nó có một những cái thời điểm mà cái lượng rác nó đột biến, nó tăng lên. Thời điểm vào mùa gió Nam thì cái nguồn rác trôi nổi ở các cái cửa sông lớn tập trung vào các khu vực, chúng tôi phải tập trung nhân lực nhiều nhất và cái lượng rác cũng nhiều nhất. Các cái túi ni lông rồi các cái vỏ chai, đấy là cái chất thải nhựa thì rất là nhiều, và cái đấy là cái vấn đề phức tạp nhất, nhức nhối nhất Bởi vì là cái công tác thu gom thì thứ nhất là các cái túi ni lông mà khi thả xuống biển thì nó trôi nổi, tản mát và cái công tác thu gom thì rất là vất vả.
According to the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, 80% of the rubbish collected were styrofoam buoys, 5% were unidentified plastic objects, and the rest were plastic bottles, nylon bags, and ropes. In 2018, the number of styrofoam buoys decreased to 70%, while plastic bottles increased to 11%.
Phao xốp đấy cũng là một cái rất là nhức nhối cho cái môi trường ở trên các khu vực vịnh này, bởi vì hầu hết là các cái cơ sở nuôi trồng thủy sản ở trên vịnh này người ta đều dùng cái vật liệu nâng nổi là cái phao xốp. Cái phao xốp này thì nó có một tác hại là khi mà nó thời gian nó mục ra, vỡ ra thì nó trôi nổi trên mặt vịnh rất mất mỹ quan và làm gây ô nhiễm môi trường. Và chúng tôi đã có nhiều cái biện pháp xử lý, đặc biệt là được sự quan tâm chỉ đạo của huyện ủy, ban nhân huyện thì chúng tôi đã có các cái chiến dịch, đó là đi vận động nhân dân là hạn chế sử dụng cái phao xốp, tháo dỡ các cái phao xốp và sử dụng các cái vật liệu nâng nổi là các cái vật liệu thân thiện hơn, ví dụ như vật liệu là composite và các cái phao nhựa. 3 năm trở lại đây thì chúng tôi cũng đã thực hiện thu gom và tháo dỡ hàng vạn cái quả phao xốp đó và chúng tôi đã tiêu hủy.
The Bay Management Board of Cat Ba Island District, established in 2010, is considered one of the efforts of the local authority to handle and clean up garbage in Cat Ba Island, Bến Bèo Bay, and Lan Hạ Bay. There are 3 ships with 4 workers, each collecting rubbish from aquaculture facilities and floating garbage above the water.
Thực hiện theo cái quyết định 538 về cái quy hoạch nuôi trồng thủy sản chung của thành phố Hải Phòng, trong đó có quy hoạch nuôi trồng thủy sản cho huyện Cát Hải. Thì hiện nay thì số lượng các cái cơ sở nuôi trồng thủy sản của chúng tôi là 440 cơ sở, có nghĩa là gần 300 hộ phải ngừng sản xuất hoàn toàn và tháo dỡ cũng như là di rời toàn bộ các cái cơ sở nuôi trồng thủy sản ở trên các cái vịnh này. Đó là cái việc làm rất là quan trọng và rất là khó khăn để mà cải thiện một cái bước đột phá các cái môi trường ở trên vịnh này.
After collection, the filth from Bến Bèo area and Lan Hạ Bay will be taken ashore and transported to the Cat Ba district's landfill for processing.
Linh, can you share more about the tourism industry in Cat Ba right now?
I think Cat Ba in the recent year is making its names more popular to tourists, not only domestic but also inbound tourists. It means foreigners come to Vietnam for many reasons. The first reason is the reputation of the island still like a pristine destination, less touristic, more nature, and also shorter in terms of transportation. In terms of the policy in Cat Ba, I think with a new raising destination, there's still a lot of things to do. It's going to be very quickly coming as a request for the government to also step up to setting the regulation, the law right from the beginning.
So, Jack, can you share with us about what is your specific next step for Cat Ba?
As Ling said, there's a real sort of tourist boom in Cat Ba. We recognize that nothing can happen at scale without active business participation. So we see a very important role for civil society, like represented by IUCN, for government and for business. It's the three parts of the triangle. So we're expanding our focus to include business engagement in Cat Ba. We have a one-day workshop with hotels in Cat Hai district to talk to them about moving to a sort of a plastic-free business strategy. And this will borrow from the sorts of innovations and experience that Bahia and others have put in place on their cruise boats, but apply them to hotels. So there's a sense of sort of positive competition and to improve standards and environmental quality. Yeah. So that's our strategy in Cat Ba.
The workshop Tourism Business Sessions for Maritime Plastic Waste Reduction held in Haiphong started a series of events implementing the Party Central Committee's Resolution 36 on plastic waste prevention. The highlight of the workshop was the call for the immediate act of tourism businesses in Katba archipelago for plastic reduction. According to experts, the cost of investing in technology for waste treatment is 4 to 5 times higher than the cost of waste disposal landfills. However, using technology not only brings economic benefits, but also helps protect the environment.
Ở Việt Nam hiện nay, cái mức độ mà để cho cái xử lý rác mà bằng công nghệ từ 400.000 đến 600.000 một tấn là khả thi. Có thể những cái tỉnh mà nghèo và không điều kiện, hoặc những địa phương nghèo có thể là 400-500.000. Những địa phương thành phố lớn như Hà Nội, thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, hay Đà Nẵng, hay Hải Phòng, hay Cần Thơ có thể xử lý được cái tầm 600.000 một tấn xử lý rác. Cái suất đầu tư đó tiếp tục hoàn toàn khả thi với doanh nghiệp Việt Nam.
Trong mấy tháng vừa qua đấy, thì huyện cũng đã chỉ đạo chỗ Hội Liên hiệp Phụ nữ cùng với ban quản lý chợ là đã cam kết với 300 hộ kinh doanh bán hàng ở chợ là không dùng cái túi ni lông để trong khi là kinh doanh các hàng ở chợ. Còn huyện cũng đang xây dựng kế hoạch thì là đến đầu tháng 8 này sẽ triển khai kế hoạch là cam kết với các hộ kinh doanh khách sạn, nhà hàng là nói không với túi ni lông và giảm thiểu cái dùng cái rác thải nhựa dùng một lần. Thế thì cũng phấn đấu là đến năm 2020 thì cố gắng sẽ giảm thiểu là khoảng 50% cái rác thải nhựa.
One typical example of businesses moving towards a zero waste tourism industry in Kathai district is the check-in program, Live Green with Sea Pearl, launched by Sea Pearl Hotel Katba. Tourists will receive different valuable gifts when not using plastic products in the hotel and then taking photos and posting on social networks.
Doanh nghiệp thì không phải trả nhiều phí thu gom rác thải. Thứ hai nữa là việc phân loại và bán được cái rác thải có giá trị đó thì cũng là một cái nguồn thu nhập của các bộ phận. Đó là lợi ích từ nội bộ. Thứ hai nữa là cái việc mà du khách, nhất là du khách phương Tây, họ quan tâm tới việc bảo vệ môi trường và một cái cơ sở triển khai cái việc mà bảo vệ môi trường thì du khách rất là ưu tiên.
Talking from the business perspective, do you think there needs to be pioneer, leading the trend and then giving example for others to follow? What do you think about this?
For your question, I think that each enterprise need, and I think everybody want to be the pioneer in the fight, because setting a successful example in the fight of single-use plastic is proof a lot. It proves that we can do it in large scale, and we can do it efficiency. That not mean that if you switch your behavior to something more positive, then the spending is increased enormously. So if you can do it in a smart way and in an efficient way, I think it will be a absolutely beautiful action to set example for others. In tourism industry, nowadays is very famous with the campaign of refill, not landfill. And a lot of companies already joining that program. So tourists who come to many countries, now they have a welcome gift with a refill bottle. For a company in Halong Bay, for example, we cannot do it yet for just our 2-day trip. But I think that if we can just provide a refill things for water use during client time on board, it's already like a very nice thing to reduce all of the bottle of water after one use, for example. So I mean that there are a lot of things that we need to take seriously for long term, but there are a lot of initiative with a little bit of innovation and ideas
and
you
creativity.
can do, and creativity. Then you already can move forward faster. Yeah.
Yeah, so no single use. products, I think it's good.
So it's nice to see that they're encouraging people to think about the climate.
These are the comments of tourists after coming back from the trip to Hạ Long Bay on the cruise without single-use plastics. As the leader in environmental protection in Hạ Long Bay, Baya Crew applies a variety of actions to reduce ocean plastic pollution.
Everything we ate and drank from was made of sustainable service, so that's porcelain or glass. You don't have plastic.
Cardboard straws they use, so they try to reduce the amount of plastic.
The cruises that are granted Blue Say Eco labels must overcome 11 strict group criteria by JICA and Green Growth Project Management Board and Department of Culture, Sport and Tourism. The strict group criteria focus on reducing air, noise pollutants, and waste and domestic water. Of the 36 cruises granted Blue Sail Eco label by Quảng Ninh Province and JICA, Baya Cruises is the first and most rewarded with a total of 11 cruises, overcoming 11 strict group criteria by JICA.
Để làm được cái nhãn hiệu cánh buồm xanh này thì chúng tôi phải đầu tư lại toàn bộ các cái hạ tầng kỹ thuật cho các cái phương tiện của chúng tôi, tiếp cận các cái công nghệ mới, liên kết với các cái nhà sản xuất các cái thiết bị bảo vệ môi trường để là lắp đặt các cái thiết bị xử lý nước đáy tàu, xử lý nước sinh hoạt, xử lý rác và đảm bảo rằng cái lượng chất thải ra môi trường ấy là đạt chuẩn và là số lượng là thấp nhất.
Using paper straws instead of plastic straws. Placing a net underwater to collect garbage from the bay while cruising. Increasing its use of recycled paper. Establishing filter system to not discharge oil and wastewater into the bay. And finally, encouraging tourists to collect garbage on the ship.
Nhân viên sẽ đi cùng với khách trong cái hành trình đó và các bạn cũng là người chuẩn bị tất cả những vật dụng, có thể là những cái vợt để có thể sử dụng để hớt rác khi mà đi kayak mà nó hơi tầm xa với thì người ta có thể sử dụng những cái vợt đó. Hoặc là đi ở trên bãi biển thì các bạn cũng có dùng những cái sọt để có thể thu nhận cái rác trên bãi biển.
I like it. I actually think it makes me feel good. I even talked to the ship about, you know, they had kayaks, and there's plastic in the ocean. So you could actually, I know in Copenhagen we have buckets where you collect trash, you know. So that could be something extra you could do while on the cruise. You could pick up trash to take care of Hạ Long Bay.
According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, Vietnam is one of the top 4 countries in terms of plastic waste discharge into the ocean. Today, people have deeply recognized the key role of enterprises in taking actions to reduce disposable plastic products and consider this a core value for sustainable business development. For enterprises operating in the tourism sector, such as Baya Cruises, the reduction of plastic waste is not only for long-term benefits, but also the most effective way to change the consumption habits of tourists.
Now I want to ask Linh about how can you implement a plastic-free boat? Is there any special method or substitution for the materials?
It's very difficult, and it's also very costly for the business. But we have our commitment for the long future, so we take step by step. Because we have 17 cruises going out every day, so we also purchase huge amount of food. And all the food will come to our cruise center in plastic bags. But now we change. We deal with the supplier that, please bring all your baskets, come, and then we use our own box to take the supply from you. So it's huge amount of plastic bag is reduced in that small process. The second step we do is taking out the amenity on cruise in the cabin. It's not just to save the cost, because we still supply it upon client request. But with that small change, the number of one-time use plastic is dramatically reduced.
I saw that you brought here some special equipment. Can you share more about that?
So actually this is the smoke kit from Ochre Cruise. As you can see, it's quite Vietnamese with a chopstick as well.
Yes.
So let's adapt to the culture of the country.
Here,
for the chopstick.
here.
Yeah. I think the most like shocking image that everybody start fighting to reduce plastic straw is when it go through the nose of the turtle. Yeah. And it's raising huge fight toward it. So I think that say no to plastic straw is really amazing act that our community worldwide is doing. Using the replacement method like bamboo straw is also nice, but I think it will be greater if we take another step to say no to straw at all. Plastic or paper or anything. Actually, we don't need straw. We don't need that convenient in this modern world. So, but the interesting thing is this toothbrush made from bamboo, and also this one is can biodegrade as well.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's try to change the habit and make a better, small but better action for environment.
Yeah.
That's a major sort of economic and behavioral challenge for the government, because we all use these, and we need to put in place sort of incentives and rules that make it less attractive. That can be quite challenging to implement. But for example, in some of the outstanding tourist sites like Hạ Long, it could actually become a selling point. The government can say, in this area, Cat Ba and Hạ Long, we are forbidding the use of plastic straws and plastic cups. And that actually becomes not a negative, but a positive. And it's a way of demonstrating government commitment to protecting the environment. And what we see is that visitors really respond positively to that. They want to see that the government and others are taking action, and that translates into a more positive visitor experience, and then they tell their family and friends, and then there's further visitation. So I think we can take these challenges and turn them into opportunities.
Tuần Châu International Seaport is where tourists begin their journey to visit Hạ Long Bay. Often, each tourist is given a single-use plastic bottle on their trip like this. However, from September the 1st, according to the announcements of Hạ Long City People's Committee, organizations and individuals will no longer be allowed to use single-use plastic products when taking part in tourism and service activities in the Hạ Long Bay World Natural Heritage Area.
Trung bình ở trên vịnh Hạ Long có khoảng 12.000 người thăm vịnh. Thì 12.000 người với chai nhựa và một cái số lượng túi bóng nhất định thì sẽ tạo nên một cái khối lượng rác khổng lồ.
From the beginning of August, many cruise ships began to provide water to guests using paper cups and explained why they don't use single-use plastic on their trip.
Mình rất ủng hộ cái việc này. Nói chung là mình muốn tất cả các cái rác thải bây giờ là chuyển qua cái có thể tái sử dụng hoặc là có thể phân hủy được liền.
Kể cả có một chút là nó là đồ nhựa hay là cái đồ phế thải khó xử lý thì chúng ta cứ vứt vào đúng nơi quy định. Cơ quan chức năng hay là những chỗ nào đó người ta xử lý thì mình sẽ tốt hơn.
100% thì có thể là hơi khó, mà hạn chế tối đa.
According to a service representative of booth on T-Top Island, 15% of visitors want food and beverage services when visiting the island. 30% demand bottled or canned drinks. Businesses support city policies, but they are asking for replacement products that meet the demand of tourists.
Khách hàng thì đôi khi ví dụ họ muốn uống một chai nước lọc, nhưng nếu như mà sau này không bán nước lọc đóng chai nữa, cái đấy là chắc chắn là ảnh hưởng đến doanh thu.
Đối với sản phẩm chai nước nhựa thì việc mà sử dụng các sản phẩm thay thế ở trên vịnh là cũng tương đối khó khăn.
The measures to say no to single-use plastic products is expected to contribute to limiting plastic waste in Hạ Long Bay, but finding substitute products and raising tourist awareness is still a problem. The Hạ Long Bay Management Board will impose strict penalties on businesses that don't comply with the regulations on single-use plastics.
Now I want to ask about the future project with the local authorities, because as you said, we already got the government's determination in a plastic-free society. But what about the implementation and execution at the local and provincial level? What's your comment on this?
I think one of the most important things that local government can do is to understand better the kinds of innovations and investments that groups like Bahia have made. Because basically what government needs to do is continuously raise the standard to understand what's possible and to incentivize those businesses that are willing to invest more in environmental protection. People are willing to pay more for a good experience. And part of that is understanding that the business they're paying is doing everything they can to provide a sort of a clean and healthy environment. So I think this really is sort of a win-win approach, but it requires that sort of continuous dialogue between government and businesses. So the government is understanding what's possible, not asking for anything that's unrealistic, but also not continuously following, and not just relying on a few outstanding businesses to do a very good job if 80% of businesses are business as usual. You need constant improvements. We've seen a lot of very progressive legislation, particularly on the Hat Long side, in the Quang Ninh side, and as part of our program to expand the World Heritage to include Cat Ba, this is a way of ensuring consistent environmental management across the entire sea and landscape. So when IUCN advised UNESCO on the original Hat Long submission nomination as a World Heritage Site in 1995, at the time we recommended that the boundary be expanded to include Cat Ba, to cover what we call the full suite, the full array of outstanding universal values.
Yes.
And there's much more willingness now for provinces to pool resources and to share authority for mutual benefit. So I think we look forward to receiving the new dossier to expand Hat Long to include Cat Ba towards the end of this year. And that will be a major step forward in ensuring consistent management across the bay.
Let's say three most urgent things that need to be taken into consideration, and we need, action now, to take action now.
Now, the Prime Minister has already declared that Vietnam will be single-use plastic bag free by 2025. And what we've observed is it actually had very little negative impact at all. People get more cautious. People get more efficient in their use, and often substitute plastic bags for their own multi-use plastic boxes. And I think we now have to shift to using plastics that are reusable. This requires some clever marketing. It requires some fairly strict government implementation. But I think with that kind of leadership, I think we can quickly shift from a society that seems to be addicted to single-use plastic bags to a society where plastic bags are considered something that's sort of really inappropriate and wrong. And that's that kind of behavioral shift that can happen in Vietnam, I believe, quite quickly. And I think that would have a hugely beneficial impact on the environment.
I think, first of all, we are Vietnamese, and we have the passionate for our country to be a welcome destination, but it's also be a sustainable tourism destination, because it's a trend nowadays, and we cannot stand out of the trend. So one side, we want to keep our country clean, our Ha Long Bay clean, but in the other side, we also need to step up to do all the neat action to make us like standing along with other destinations in the very strong competition of tourism industry nowadays. And I think we see so many passionate young people, next generation, who taking care of, who lead a lot of activities by themselves, not only cleaning the coastline, cleaning the bay, making a lot of action on their daily work to say no with single-use plastic. There are so many activities out there. And also I think that it's time to as Jack said, that we need some stronger policy to attack the problem in its root. To join the effort to put all the puzzles together to solve the big problem, because no one can stand alone or fight alone in this fight for a cleaner ocean, for a cleaner Vietnam.
And it is a continuous effort, and we hope that through this program, more and more viewers will get the message and be more responsible and understand that their action actually, it's also very important.
Yeah, that's
Thank
true.
you. Thank you very much for joining our program today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. From the stories of our guests, we've learned that we all share the responsibility to help preserve natural heritage sites like Hạ Long. For so long, we have taken for granted our beautiful natural heritage, assuming these places will never change. Seeing what we normally don't see, knowing what we normally don't know, the story of Hạ Long and Cát Bà is just one example that urges us to take action. And your action counts because every time you use one single-use plastic cup, it will not disappear for the rest of your life. This is the end of our Talk Vietnam today. Goodbye and see you next time.